My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. Dr. Carter's voice echoed in my head, but I couldn't process the words.
How could you be so selfish?
Mrs. Mitchell,
No
whoever
idea
has
what
been
you're
giving these
talking
pills
about.
to your
Stay
daughter,
out of my life.
this is child abuse. I dropped to my knees right there in the hospital hallway. My sister. My own sister had been drugging my baby girl for months, and I had thanked her for it. I had hugged her. I had told her she was the best aunt in the world. The worst part, Emma tried to tell me. She tried to warn me, and I almost didn't listen. If you want to know how I discovered the horrifying truth about my sister and saved my daughter just in time, stay with me until the end. Subscribe to this channel and comment below what city you're watching from. I want to see how far my story travels. This is something every mother and grandmother needs to hear. I never planned to be a single mother. Nobody does, really. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and 3 years ago my husband David walked out on me and our daughter Emma. She was only 5 years old. I remember standing in the doorway of our little house in Millbrook, Ohio, watching his pickup truck disappear down the road. Emma was tugging at my sleeve, asking when Daddy was coming back. I lied to her that day. I told her Daddy would be home soon. But deep down, I knew he wasn't coming back. The divorce papers arrived 3 weeks later. Suddenly, I was alone with a child, a mortgage, and a job that barely covered our basic needs. I worked as a nurse at St. Mary's General Hospital, and let me tell you, nursing isn't the glamorous profession people think it is. The hours are brutal, the pay is modest, and the emotional toll is something you carry home with you every single night. Before David left, we had a system. He worked days, I worked nights. One of us was always home with Emma. But now I had to work double shifts just to keep the lights on and food on the table. I remember sitting at my kitchen table one night, going through bills, trying to figure out how I was going to make this work. Emma was asleep in her room, clutching her stuffed rabbit like it was the only stable thing in her world. And maybe it was. That's when my phone rang. "Sarah, it's Patty." My older sister, Patricia Mitchell Henderson. We'd never been particularly close growing up. She was 7 years older than me, and by the time I was old enough to really know her, she was already off to college. But family is family, and after David left, Patty had been calling more often. "Hey, Patty, what's going on?" "I've been thinking about you and Emma. How are you holding up?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to say everything was fine, but I was so tired, so incredibly bone-deep tired. Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I can't afford daycare, and my shifts keep changing. Some weeks I work days, some weeks I work nights. Emma's been staying with the neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, but she's 72 years old, and she can't keep doing this. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Patty spoke, and her voice was warm and reassuring. "Sarah, why didn't you tell me sooner I'm your sister? I want to help." I didn't want to be a burden. "You're not a burden. Listen, Greg and I have been talking. We have this big house, and it's just the two of us rattling around in it. Why don't you let Emma come stay with us after school? I can pick her up, help her with homework, feed her dinner. Then you can pick her up after your shift." I felt tears prick at my eyes. "Patty, that's too much to ask." "You're not asking. I'm offering. Sarah, I've always wanted children, you know that. Greg and I tried for years, and it just never happened for us. Having Emma around would be a blessing, not a burden." I knew about Patty's struggles with infertility. She'd gone through multiple rounds of IVF, spent tens of thousands of dollars, and still ended up with an empty nursery. It had been a source of deep pain for her, and I'd always felt guilty that children came so easily to me while she suffered. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Emma is family. Let me help you, Sarah, please." And just like that, the arrangement was made. I should have known. I should have seen the warning signs from the very beginning. But I was so desperate, so grateful, that I ignored every instinct that told me something wasn't quite right. The first few weeks were wonderful. I would drop Emma off at school in the morning, and Patty would pick her up at 3 o'clock. By the time I finished my shift and drove to Patty's house, Emma would be fed, bathed, and ready for bed. Her homework would be done, her backpack packed for the next day. Aunt Patty is the best. Emma would tell me on the drive home. She makes the best macaroni and cheese, and she lets me watch my favorite shows. I would smile and thank God for my sister. I would go home, tuck Emma into bed, and collapse from exhaustion, grateful that I had someone I could trust. Patty's house was beautiful. It was a large colonial in the nicest part of town, with a manicured lawn and a white picket fence. Greg was a financial advisor, and they lived comfortably, very comfortably. Sometimes I felt embarrassed pulling up in my beat-up Honda, but Patty never made me feel less than, at least not at first. It was about 2 months into the arrangement when I started noticing small changes in Emma. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would make anyone call Child Protective Services. Just little things that nagged at the back of my mind. Emma had always been an energetic child. Before David left, she was constantly in motion, running, jumping, dancing, singing at the top of her lungs. She was exhausting in the best possible way. But now she was quiet, calm, well-behaved to the point of being almost robotic. "How was your day, sweetheart?" I would ask her. "Fine," she would answer. "Just fine, nothing more." I told myself she was adjusting. I told myself the divorce had affected her, and this was her way of coping. I told myself that having a stable routine with Aunt Patty was exactly what she needed. I was so good at lying to myself. One evening, I arrived at Patty's house to pick up Emma. I was running late as usual, and I rushed through the front door without knocking. "Sorry I'm late," I called out. The traffic on Main Street was terrible. I found Emma sitting at the kitchen table, perfectly still, hands folded in her lap. She looked like a little doll. Behind her, Patty was washing dishes, humming softly to herself. "Oh, don't worry about it," Patty said, not turning around. "Emma's been an absolute angel today, haven't you?" "Emma?" "Yes, Aunt Patty," Emma said. Her voice was flat, monotone. Something cold slithered through my stomach, but I pushed it down. I was being paranoid. Emma was just tired. Children get tired. "Ready to go home, baby?" I asked, forcing brightness into my voice. Emma nodded and stood up. She moved slowly, deliberately, like she was moving through water. I watched her put on her shoes, and I noticed her hands were trembling slightly. "Emma, are you feeling okay?" She looked up at me, and for just a moment, I saw something in her eyes. Fear, confusion. I couldn't tell. But then it was gone, replaced by that same blank expression. "I'm fine, Mommy." On the drive home, I glanced at Emma in the rearview mirror. She was staring out the window, not talking, not singing along to the radio like she used to. "Emma, is everything okay at Aunt Patty's house?" "Yes, Mommy." "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right? You can tell me anything." She nodded, but she didn't look at me. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Something was wrong with my daughter. I could feel it in my bones. But what could I do? I had no one else to watch her. I couldn't afford daycare. And Patty was family. Patty loved Emma. Patty would never hurt her. Would she? I shook off the thought. I was being ridiculous. Sleep deprivation was making me paranoid. Everything was fine. Everything was not fine. The next few weeks brought more changes. Emma stopped asking to go to the park. She stopped wanting to play with her toys. She would come home from Patty's house, eat a small dinner, and go straight to bed without argument. "She's such a good girl," Patty would say. "So well behaved. Not like other children her age. You should be proud, Sarah." But I wasn't proud. I was terrified. Because my daughter wasn't well behaved. My daughter was disappearing. I tried talking to my coworker Linda about it. We were on a break in the hospital cafeteria, and I couldn't keep it inside anymore. "Linda, can I ask you something?" She looked up from her coffee. "Of course. What's on your mind?" "It's Emma. She's been acting different lately. Quiet. Almost too quiet. She used to be so full of energy, and now she just sits there like a little statue." Linda frowned. "Kids go through phases. Maybe she's just growing up." "Maybe. But it feels like more than that. It feels like something is wrong." "Have you talked to her about it?" "I've tried. She just says she's fine. But she doesn't look fine. She looks tired all the time. And she's losing weight. I had to tighten her belt loops last week." Linda leaned forward. "Sarah, have you considered that maybe she's not adjusting well to being at your sister's house? Some kids don't do well with change." But Patty is wonderful with her. She picks her up from school, helps her with homework, feeds her dinner. She's doing everything right. I'm sure she is, but sometimes kids pick up on things that adults miss. "Maybe you should spend a day at Patty's house, see how Emma acts when she's there." I thought about it. I really did. But when would I have time? I was working 50-hour weeks just to keep us afloat. I couldn't take a day off to spy on my sister. So I did nothing. I told myself I was overreacting, and I did nothing. That decision haunts me to this day. It was a Thursday evening when everything changed. I had worked a 12-hour shift, and I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. I picked Emma up from Patty's house and drove home on autopilot, not really paying attention to anything. Emma was quiet as usual. She ate her dinner without complaint and went to her room to get ready for bed. I was sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone when she came out in her pajamas. "Mommy." I looked up. "Yes, sweetheart." She was standing in the doorway, twisting the hem of her pajama shirt in her hands. Her face was pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, baby. You can ask me anything." She hesitated. I could see her struggling with something, trying to find the words. My heart started beating faster. "Mommy, can I stop taking Aunt Patty's vitamins?" I blinked. "What vitamins?" "The ones Aunt Patty gives me every day. She says they're vitamins to make me healthy and strong, but they make me feel sleepy and weird." The world stopped. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I set my phone down very slowly and patted the couch cushion beside me. "Come here, Emma. Tell me about these vitamins." She walked over and sat down next to me, her little body tense and nervous. I put my arm around her and pulled her close. "What do they look like?" "They're small, white, kind of round." "And when does Aunt Patty give them to you?" "Every day when she picks me up from school. She says I have to take them before we go to her house. She says they're special vitamins just for me." My mind was racing. I had never asked Patty to give Emma vitamins. I had never given Patty permission to give Emma any kind of medication. Why would my sister be giving my daughter pills without telling me, "Emma, how long has Aunt Patty been giving you these vitamins?" She thought about it. "A long time, since I started going to her house after school." Months. Patty had been giving my daughter pills for months, and I had no idea. "Does anyone else know about the vitamins? Does Uncle Greg know?" Emma shook her head. "Aunt Patty says it's our secret. She says I'm not supposed to tell anyone. But I don't like them, Mommy. They make my head feel fuzzy and my tummy feel sick." Rage, pure white-hot rage exploded in my chest. But I couldn't show it, not in front of Emma. She was already scared enough. "Baby, you did the right thing by telling me. I'm so proud of you. You're not in trouble, okay? This isn't your fault." She looked up at me with those big, trusting eyes. "Am I going to get in trouble with Aunt Patty?" "No, sweetheart. You're not going to get in trouble with anyone. I'm going to fix this. I promise." I tucked her into bed that night, and I stayed with her until she fell asleep. Then I went to my room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of my bed, shaking. What had my sister been giving my daughter? My first instinct was to call Patty and demand answers. I actually picked up my phone and started dialing her number. But then I stopped. If Patty was giving Emma pills in secret, if she had told Emma to keep it a secret, then confronting her directly might not get me the truth. She might lie. She might make excuses. She might turn it around on me somehow. No, I needed proof first. I needed to know exactly what these pills were before I did anything else. The next morning I made a decision. Instead of sending Emma to school and letting Patty pick her up, I called in sick to work. I told Emma she could stay home with me for the day. Her face lit up. "Really, Mommy, I get to stay home with you?" "Really. We're going to have a special day, just the two of us." But first, I had a mission. I asked Emma to get her backpack, and I searched through every pocket, every compartment. In a small zippered section in the front, I found them. 3 small white pills. My hands were shaking as I held them. They didn't look like any vitamin I had ever seen. They looked like medication, prescription medication. I put them in a plastic bag and hid them in my purse. "Emma, I need to take you to the doctor today. Just for a checkup. Nothing scary, I promise." She nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Am I sick? No, baby. I just want to make sure you're healthy. That's all. I called the pediatrician's office and made an emergency appointment. Dr. Raymond Carter had been Emma's doctor since she was born. He was a kind man in his 60s with silver hair and gentle hands. I trusted him completely. The waiting room was full of other mothers and children, and I sat there with Emma on my lap trying to keep my composure. My mind was spinning with possibilities, each one worse than the last. What if the pills were harmless? What if Patty really was just giving her vitamins and I was making a big deal out of nothing? But then why the secrecy? Why tell Emma not to tell anyone? When we were finally called back, I felt like I was going to throw up. Dr. Carter greeted us with his usual warm smile. Sarah, Emma, good to see you both. What brings you in today? I took a deep breath. Dr. Carter, I need to talk to you privately. Can someone watch Emma for a few minutes? His smile faded, replaced by concern. He nodded and called a nurse to take Emma to the play area. Once we were alone, I told him everything. The changes in Emma's behavior, the fatigue, the weight loss, the blank expressions, and finally, the pills. I handed him the plastic bag, and he examined them carefully. Sarah, do you have any idea what these are? No, that's why I'm here. I need to know what my sister has been giving my daughter. Dr. Carter's face was unreadable. I'll need to run some tests on Emma, blood work at minimum, and I'll send these pills to the lab for analysis. How long will that take? The blood work I can do today. The pill analysis might take a few days. Okay, let's do it. The blood draw was hard. Emma cried and clung to me, and I held her tight, whispering reassurances that everything was going to be okay. But inside, I was screaming. After it was over, Dr. Carter told me he would call as soon as he had results. We went home, and I spent the rest of the day with Emma watching movies and eating popcorn and pretending everything was normal. But it wasn't normal. Nothing was normal. And I knew that whatever came next was going to change our lives forever. The call came 2 days later. I was at work in the middle of a shift when my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen and saw Dr. Carter's name. My stomach dropped. Hello. Sarah, it's Dr. Carter. I have Emma's results. Can you come to my office today if possible? His voice was serious. Too serious. Is something wrong? There was a pause. Then he said, I think we should discuss this in person. I don't remember much about the rest of that day. I told my supervisor there was a family emergency and left work early. I picked up Emma from Patty's house, forcing myself to smile and act normal while my heart was breaking. Patty waved goodbye from the doorway. See you tomorrow, Emma. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and demand to know what she had done to my child. But I couldn't. Not yet. We drove straight to Dr. Carter's office. A nurse took Emma to the play area again, and I walked into his private office on legs that felt like jelly. Dr. Carter was sitting behind his desk, a file folder open in front of him. He looked up when I came in, and his expression made my blood run cold. Please sit down, Sarah. I sat. I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. I have the results from Emma's blood work, and I also received the lab analysis on the pills you gave me. And? He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. When he looked at me again, I saw something I had never seen in him before. Anger. Sarah, I need to ask you something very important, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Has Emma been taking any medication, sedatives, anti-anxiety pills? Anything prescribed or unprescribed? No, I mean, not that I know of. That's why I brought you those pills. I found them in her backpack. He nodded slowly. The pills you gave me are a low-dose benzodiazepine. It's a sedative typically prescribed for adults with severe anxiety or sleep disorders. It's not meant for children, ever. The room started to spin. I gripped the arms of my chair. What does that mean? What has it done to Emma? Emma's blood work shows traces of the drug in her system. Based on the levels, I would estimate she's been taking it regularly for at least 2 to 3 months, possibly longer. Oh my God. Sarah, this is serious. Benzodiazepines given to a child over an extended period can cause significant harm. Memory problems, cognitive delays, dependency, withdrawal symptoms, in severe cases long-term neurological damage. I was crying now. Tears streamed down my face, and I didn't bother to wipe them away. Is Emma going to be okay? We caught it early enough that I'm hopeful we can reverse most of the damage, but she'll need to be weaned off the drug carefully, and she'll likely need therapy to deal with the psychological effects. Therapy? She's 8 years old? I know, and I'm sorry, but Sarah, I need to tell you something else. I looked at him, dreading what was coming next. As a mandated reporter, I'm legally required to inform Child Protective Services about this. Someone has been giving your daughter a controlled substance without your knowledge or consent. That's child abuse. It's also a crime. Child abuse. The words hit me like a physical blow. My sister, my own sister, had been abusing my child. I know who did this, I said, my voice shaking. It was my sister, Patty. She's been watching Emma after school, and she's been giving her those pills. Dr. Carter's expression didn't change. Do you have proof? Emma told me. She said Aunt Patty gives her vitamins every day. She said Patty told her to keep it a secret. Then you need to go to the police today, file a report, get a restraining order, do whatever you have to do to keep that woman away from your daughter. I nodded. I couldn't speak anymore. I felt like I was drowning. Sarah. Dr. Carter's voice was gentle now. You didn't know. This isn't your fault, but it was my fault. I had trusted Patty. I had handed my daughter over to her day after day, and I had ignored every warning sign. I had let this happen. I walked out of that office a different person than when I walked in. The Sarah who had trusted blindly was gone. In her place was a mother on a mission. Nobody was going to hurt my daughter ever again. I took Emma home and put on her favorite movie. Then I went to my room, closed the door, and made 2 phone calls. The first was to the Millbrook Police Department. I filed a report against Patricia Henderson for child endangerment and administering a controlled substance to a minor without parental consent. The second was to a lawyer. I didn't have much money, but I had enough for an initial consultation. I explained the situation, and the lawyer told me what I needed to do next. Document everything, she said. Every conversation, every interaction. Don't confront your sister yet. Let the police handle it. And whatever you do, don't let her near your daughter again. That night, I lay next to Emma in her bed, holding her close while she slept. I listened to her breathing and thought about all the months I had missed the signs, all the times she had come home tired and withdrawn, and I had told myself it was normal. She had tried to tell me. She had asked to stop taking the vitamins. She had trusted me to listen, and thank God I finally had. Tomorrow I would confront my sister. Tomorrow I would get answers. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight I held my daughter and promised her silently that I would never let anyone hurt her again. I had no idea that the confrontation with Patty would reveal secrets far darker than I ever imagined. Secrets about jealousy, control, and a sister I never really knew. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 3 months in my head. Every time I dropped Emma off at Patty's house. Every time I picked her up exhausted and grateful. Every time I ignored the warning signs because it was easier than asking questions. The guilt was eating me alive. When morning came, I called in sick to work again. I couldn't face the hospital. I couldn't face anyone. All I could think about was my daughter and what my sister had done to her. Emma woke up around 8, and I made her favorite breakfast. Pancakes with chocolate chips and whipped cream. She ate slowly, picking at her food, and I watched her with new eyes. Eyes that finally saw what I had been too blind to see before. She was thin, too thin. Her cheekbones were prominent, and her wrists looked fragile like bird bones. When had she lost so much weight? How had I not noticed? "Mommy, why are you looking at me like that?" I forced a smile. "I'm just thinking about how much I love you, sweetheart." She smiled back, but it didn't reach her eyes. That smile used to light up the whole room. Now it was just a ghost of what it used to be. "Emma, I need to ask you some more questions about Aunt Patty's vitamins. Is that okay?" She tensed immediately. Her fork clattered against her plate. "Am I in trouble?" "No, baby, you're not in trouble. I promise. I just need to understand what's been happening. Can you help me?" She nodded slowly, but I could see the fear in her eyes. Fear of what? Of me, of Patty, of telling the truth. "When Aunt Patty gives you the vitamins, What does she say? Emma looked down at her plate. She says they're special vitamins to help me be a good girl. She says if I take them, I won't be hyper and annoying anymore. My heart cracked. Hyper and annoying. My beautiful, energetic daughter had been told she was hyper and annoying. Emma, you are not annoying. You have never been annoying. Do you understand me? She didn't answer. What else does Aunt Patty say? She says that good girls sit quietly and don't make noise. She says good girls don't run around or ask too many questions. She says if I'm a good girl, you won't have to work so hard and you can spend more time with me. The manipulation was so clear now. Patty had been conditioning my daughter, breaking her spirit, making her believe that her natural energy, her natural curiosity, her natural joy was wrong, was bad, was the reason I wasn't around. Baby, look at me. She looked up and I saw tears in her eyes. I work hard because I have to, not because of anything you did. You are the best thing in my life. You are not too loud. You are not too hyper. You are perfect exactly the way you are. Do you hear me? She nodded, but I could tell she didn't believe me. 3 months of Patty's poison had done its damage. Mommy, are you mad at Aunt Patty? I wanted to scream. Yes. I wanted to tell her that I was going to make Patty pay for every single pill, every single lie, every single moment of stolen childhood. But I couldn't. Not yet. I'm just trying to understand what happened, sweetheart. That's all. Please don't be mad at her. She said she was helping me. She said she was making me better. Better. My sister had convinced my daughter that drugging her was making her better. I pulled Emma into my arms and held her tight. I could feel her heart beating against mine, fast and scared. You were never broken, Emma. You never needed to be fixed, and no one is ever going to give you those vitamins again. I promise. That afternoon, I made arrangements for Emma to stay with my co-worker, Linda. I trusted Linda. She had kids of her own, and she understood what I was going through. She didn't ask questions. She just hugged me and told me to do what I needed to do. Then I drove to Patty's house. The whole way there, I rehearsed what I was going to say. I practiced staying calm. I practiced not screaming, not crying, not losing control. But as soon as I pulled into her driveway and saw that perfect white house with its perfect green lawn, all my composure evaporated. I rang the doorbell, and Patty answered with a smile. Sarah, what a surprise. Where's Emma? Emma's not coming here anymore. Her smile faltered. What do you mean, is she sick? Can I come in? We need to talk. She stepped aside, and I walked into her perfect living room with its perfect furniture and its perfect silence. This was the house where my daughter had been drugged for 3 months. This was the house where she had been told she was too loud, too hyper, too annoying. I hated this house. Sarah, what's going on? You're scaring me. I turned to face her. My sister, 7 years older, always the responsible one, always the one with her life together, always the one my parents held up as an example. I know about the pills, Patty. Her face went blank, just for a second. Then she laughed. Pills? What pills? Sarah, what are you talking about? The pills you've been giving Emma, the ones you told her were vitamins, the ones you told her to keep secret. Oh, those, Sarah, they're just children's vitamins, multivitamins. You can buy them at any drugstore. I thought I was doing something nice. She was good. I had to give her that. Her voice was steady, her expression confused and slightly hurt. If I didn't know better, I might have believed her, but I did know better. I had them tested, Patty. I took them to Emma's doctor, and he sent them to a lab. They're not vitamins. They're benzodiazepines. They're sedatives. The color drained from her face. For just a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear. Guilt. Anger. Then it was gone, replaced by indignation. That's ridiculous. I would never give Emma sedatives. Why would I do that? That's what I want to know. Sarah, I don't know what that doctor told you, but he's wrong. Those are vitamins. I bought them at CVS. I can show you the receipt. Then explain why Emma's blood work shows traces of benzodiazepines in her system. Explain why she's lost weight, why she's tired all the time, why she's become a completely different child. Children go through phases, Sarah. You would know that if you were ever around. The words hit like a slap. I stared at her, and for the first time I saw her clearly. The mask was slipping. "What did you just say to me?" "I said you would know your daughter better if you weren't always at work. I've been raising her for the past 3 months while you work double shifts and barely see her, and now you come into my house and accuse me of drugging her. How dare you?" "You did drug her. The tests prove it." "Tests can be wrong. Labs make mistakes. But you know what's not a mistake? The fact that I've been there for Emma every single day while you've been absent. I've fed her. I've bathed her. I've helped her with homework. I've done everything a mother should do, and you can't stand it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was actually trying to turn this around on me. She was actually trying to make herself the victim. "Patty, stop. Just stop. I'm not here to fight about who's a better mother. I'm here because you gave my daughter drugs, prescription drugs, without my knowledge, without my consent. That's illegal. That's child abuse." "Child abuse," she laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'll tell you what's child abuse. Leaving your daughter with strangers, working so much that you barely know her, being so checked out that you don't even notice when she's unhappy. That's child abuse, Sarah, not me giving her something to help her calm down." Help her calm down. She's 8 years old. She's supposed to be energetic. She was uncontrollable. Do you have any idea what it was like trying to take care of her? She never stopped moving, never stopped talking, never stopped asking questions. It was exhausting. And there it was, the truth, finally. "So you drugged her, because she was too much work." "I helped her. I made her manageable. I made her into a child people actually want to be around." I felt sick, actually physically sick. I had to put my hand on the wall to steady myself. "Patty, do you hear yourself? You sedated my daughter because she was annoying to you. You gave her drugs so she would be quiet and compliant. You broke her." "I didn't break her, I fixed her. And if you had any sense, you would thank me." "Thank you, thank you." I was screaming now. I couldn't help it. All the calm, all the composure I had practiced in the car was gone. "You poisoned my child. You lied to her. You told her she was too loud, too hyper, too annoying. You made her believe something was wrong with her, and you want me to thank you. Lower your voice, Sarah. The neighbors will hear." "I don't care about your neighbors. I don't care about your perfect house or your perfect lawn or your perfect reputation. All I care about is my daughter, and you almost destroyed her." Patty's face hardened. The mask was completely gone now, and what I saw underneath terrified me. Cold, calculating, cruel. "You ungrateful little brat, I did you a favor. I took care of your problem child while you played nurse. I gave up my time, my energy, my peace of mind to help you, and this is how you repay me. My daughter is not a problem child. She was before I fixed her. I wanted to hit her. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her until she understood what she had done. But I didn't. I couldn't, because I knew that anything I did could be used against me." "Where did you get the pills, Patty?" She smiled. It was the coldest smile I had ever seen. "I have my sources." "What does that mean?" "Did you steal them? Did someone give them to you? Did you have a prescription?" "That's none of your business." "It is my business. You gave them to my daughter. And you'll never prove it. It's my word against yours. Against the word of an 8-year-old who has an overworked, absent mother looking for someone to blame." I stared at her. My sister. My own flesh and blood. How had I never seen this side of her? "I have the pills, Patty. I have Emma's blood work. I have a report from her doctor. And I've already filed a police report." For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. "You did what? You heard me. I went to the police. They're going to investigate. And when they find out what you did, you're going to jail. You can't do this to me. I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister the moment you put the first pill in my daughter's mouth." I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. "Sarah, wait. Please. We can work this out. We're family." I didn't turn around. "You should have thought about that before you drugged my child." I walked out of that house and never looked back. The drive home was a blur. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the steering wheel. I had to pull over twice just to catch my breath. But underneath the fear and the rage, there was something else. Relief. I had finally confronted her. I had finally stood up for my daughter. But the battle was just beginning. That night, I got a call from the police. Detective Morrison, a woman with a kind voice and a no-nonsense attitude, wanted to meet with me the next day. She had some questions about my report. "Is my sister being arrested?" I asked. "We're still investigating Mrs. Mitchell, but I want you to know that we're taking this very seriously. Child endangerment is not something we take lightly." I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat in the darkness and cried. The next morning, I took Emma to her therapist appointment. Dr. Carter had recommended a child psychologist named Dr. Helen Martinez, and she had agreed to see Emma right away. The waiting room was filled with toys and colorful pictures designed to make children feel safe. But Emma sat rigidly in her chair, hands folded in her lap, not touching anything. "Emma, sweetie, you can play with the toys if you want." "I'm okay, Mommy." "Are you sure there are some dolls over there? You used to love dolls." "Aunt Patty said dolls are for babies." Another piece of my heart broke. Dr. Martinez came out and introduced herself. She was a warm woman in her 50s, with silver hair and kind eyes. She took Emma into her office for their session, and I sat in the waiting room trying not to fall apart. An hour later, Dr. Martinez brought Emma out and asked to speak with me privately. A nurse took Emma to the play area, and I followed Dr. Martinez into her office. "Mrs. Mitchell, I want to start by saying that Emma is a wonderful little girl. She's sweet, she's smart, and she has a very strong spirit." "Thank you. But I'm also concerned. Emma shows signs of conditioning. She's been taught to suppress her natural emotions and behaviors. She's afraid to be loud, afraid to be energetic, afraid to be herself. She believes that being a good girl means being quiet and still." That's what my sister told her, that good girls are quiet. I suspected as much. "Mrs. Mitchell, what your sister did to Emma is a form of emotional abuse. The pills were physical abuse, but the manipulation, the conditioning, the breaking down of her self-esteem, that's equally damaging. Maybe more so." "Can you help her?" "Yes. With time and consistent therapy, I believe Emma can recover. But it's going to take work. She needs to relearn that it's okay to be herself, that her energy and enthusiasm are not flaws, but strengths, that she doesn't need to be sedated to be loved." I was crying again. It seemed like all I did these days was cry. "How long will it take?" "That depends on Emma. Some children bounce back quickly, others take longer. But I want you to know that you did the right thing by bringing her to me. You may have saved her life." Saved her life. The words echoed in my head as I drove home. Had it really been that serious? Had my sister really almost destroyed my daughter? The answer I would learn was yes, and the truth was even darker than I imagined. That evening, I got another call. This time it was from Greg, Patty's husband. "Sarah, we need to talk." His voice was low, almost a whisper, like he didn't want anyone to hear. "I don't have anything to say to you, Greg. Please, it's important. There are things you don't know, things about Patty." I hesitated. Greg had always been a passive presence in Patty's life, quiet, submissive. He went along with whatever Patty wanted, and I had never thought much of him one way or the other. But something in his voice made me pause. "What things? Not over the phone. Can we meet somewhere Patty won't know about?" Every instinct told me this was a bad idea, but curiosity won out. "Fine. There's a coffee shop on Main Street, the Blue Cup. I can meet you there tomorrow at noon." "I'll be there." He hung up before I could say anything else. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. I lay in bed thinking about Greg's call. What did he know? What was he going to tell me? And why was he reaching out now, after everything that had happened? I had a feeling I was about to find out something terrible. The Blue Cup was nearly empty when I arrived. Greg was already there, sitting in a corner booth, nursing a cup of coffee. He looked terrible, pale, unshaven, with dark circles under his eyes. I slid into the seat across from him. "Talk." He took a deep breath. "Sarah, I need you to understand something first. I didn't know what Patty was doing. Not at first, and by the time I figured it out, I was too scared to do anything." Scared of what?" Scared of Patty. I stared at him. You're scared of your own wife. You don't know her, Sarah. Not really. You think you do, but you don't. The Patty you know, the perfect sister, the perfect housewife. That's not who she really is. Then, who is she? Greg looked around the coffee shop as if making sure no one was listening. Then he leaned forward. Patty has problems, Sarah. Serious problems. She's been in therapy for years. She takes medication. She has episodes. Episodes? What kind of episodes? She gets obsessed with things, with people. When she can't have what she wants, she finds ways to control it, to make it hers. A chill ran down my spine. What does this have to do with Emma? Patty always wanted children, you know that. We tried for years and it never happened. When we finally gave up, something broke inside her. She became obsessed with the idea of having a child, a perfect child, a child she could control. And then Emma came along. Greg nodded. When you asked Patty to watch Emma, she saw it as her chance to finally have the daughter she always wanted. But Emma wasn't what she expected. Emma was loud, energetic, curious. She asked questions. She made messes. She was a real child, not the quiet little doll Patty had imagined. So she drugged her, to make her into the child she wanted. Yes, she told me the pills were just to help Emma settle down. She said Emma was too hyper, too difficult, and a little something to calm her nerves wouldn't hurt. I believed her at first. I wanted to believe her. But you knew. Eventually you knew. He looked down at his coffee. Yes, I knew. And I did nothing. I told myself it wasn't my business. I told myself Patty knew what she was doing. I told myself Emma was fine. She wasn't fine, Greg. She was being poisoned. I know. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to scream at him for his cowardice, for his complicity, for standing by while my daughter was drugged. But looking at him, I realized he was as much a victim of Patty as Emma was. Why are you telling me this now? Because the police are going to investigate, and the truth is going to come out. All of it. And I thought you deserved to hear it from me first. There's more. He nodded slowly. Patty didn't just drug Emma Sarah. She's done this before. The coffee shop seemed to tilt. What do you mean? Before Emma there was another child. A neighbor's daughter. Patty used to babysit her. The same thing happened. The girl became withdrawn, quiet, started losing weight. Her parents pulled her out of Patty's care, but they never knew why. They just thought she was going through a phase. Oh my God. And before that there was my niece, my brother's daughter. She stayed with us for a summer. Same story. Patty couldn't handle her energy, so she found a way to control it. I felt like I was going to throw up. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern. Why didn't anyone stop her? No one knew Sarah. Patty is smart. She's careful. She knows exactly how much to give, exactly how to cover her tracks. The children don't remember clearly. The parents don't suspect. And I never said anything because I was afraid. Afraid of what she would do to you. Afraid of what she would do to everyone. You don't know what she's capable of, Sarah. You don't know the things I've seen. I stood up. My legs were shaking. I have to go to the police. I have to tell them everything. I know. That's why I'm here. I'll tell them too. Everything I know. Everything I should have said years ago. I looked at Greg, this broken man who had lived in fear of his own wife. Part of me pitied him. Part of me despised him. Why now, Greg? Why are you finally talking? He looked up at me, and I saw tears in his eyes. Because Emma doesn't deserve what happened to her. None of those children deserved it, and I can't stay silent anymore, even if it destroys me. I left the coffee shop and sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying to process what I had just learned. My sister wasn't just someone who made a mistake. She was a predator, a manipulator, a woman who had spent years drugging children because she couldn't control them any other way. And I had handed my daughter to her on a silver platter. The guilt was crushing. But underneath it, something else was growing. Determination. I was going to make sure Patty paid for what she had done, not just to Emma, but to every child she had ever hurt. I called Detective Morrison and told her everything Greg had said. Can you get him to come in and make a statement? I think so. He seemed ready to talk. Good. This changes things, Mrs. Mitchell. If there's a pattern of behavior, we can build a much stronger case. What happens next? We investigate. We interview the other families. We gather evidence. And if everything checks out, we arrest your sister. Arrest. The word felt surreal. My sister arrested. My sister in handcuffs. My sister going to jail. Part of me still couldn't believe it had come to this. But a bigger part of me knew it was exactly what she deserved. That night I sat with Emma while she slept. I watched her chest rise and fall, listened to her soft breathing, and made a silent promise. I would protect her, no matter what it took, no matter who I had to fight, no matter what secrets came out. My daughter would never be hurt again. The next few days were a blur of police interviews, phone calls, and sleepless nights. Detective Morrison worked quickly, and true to his word, Greg came forward with his statement. He named the other children Patty had cared for over the years, and the detective began reaching out to their families. I was sitting in the police station waiting room when Detective Morrison called me into her office. Her face was grim. "We've confirmed 2 additional cases, Mrs. Mitchell. The families are willing to cooperate." Greg mentioned 2 children. "There may be more. We're still investigating, but what we have is enough to move forward." "What does that mean?" "It means we're going to arrest your sister today." I should have felt relieved. I should have felt vindicated. But all I felt was hollow. This was my sister, my blood. And in a few hours, she would be in handcuffs. "I need to warn you," Detective Morrison continued. "When word gets out about this, it's going to be difficult. Your family will be in the spotlight. People will ask questions. Are you prepared for that?" "I don't have a choice. Emma needs justice." She nodded. "I've seen a lot of cases like this, Mrs. Mitchell. Parents who trust the wrong people, children who suffer in silence, but I've also seen families come out the other side stronger. Emma is lucky to have a mother who listened." Lucky. That word stuck in my throat. Emma wasn't lucky. She had been drugged by her own aunt for 3 months, while her mother worked double shifts and didn't notice. There was nothing lucky about any of this. I went home and waited. Detective Morrison said she would call me when Patty was in custody. The hours dragged by like years. Emma was at Linda's house again. I couldn't bear to have her home while I waited for news about her abuser's arrest. I wanted to protect her from this as much as I could, even though I knew that was impossible. The call came at 4:17 in the afternoon. "Mrs. Mitchell, Patricia Henderson, has been taken into custody. She's being charged with child endangerment, administering a controlled substance to a minor, and multiple counts of reckless endangerment of a child." Multiple counts. The other families have come forward. 3 children in total, including Emma. 3 children. My sister had drugged 3 children over the years, and no one had known. No one had stopped her. What happens now? She'll be arraigned tomorrow morning. The judge will set bail. Given the nature of the charges and the number of victims, I expect bail will be high. Will she get out? That depends on whether she can post bail, but regardless, there will be a restraining order. She won't be allowed anywhere near Emma or the other children. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat on my couch and stared at the wall. It was over. Patty was in jail. Emma was safe. But it didn't feel over. It felt like something was just beginning. My phone rang again. I didn't recognize the number. "Hello." "Is this Sarah Mitchell?" A woman's voice, unfamiliar and hesitant. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Jennifer Walsh. I think you and I need to talk." "About what?" "About Patricia Henderson. She babysat my daughter 4 years ago." My heart stopped. Another one. Another child Patty had hurt. "I'm listening." "My daughter Lily was 7 when Patty started watching her. She was a handful, always running around getting into things. I thought Patty was a godsend. She was so patient, so calm, and Lily loved going to her house." "What happened?" "After a few weeks, Lily started changing. She became quiet, withdrawn. She stopped wanting to play with her friends. She would come home from Patty's house exhausted and go straight to bed." The story was so familiar it made me sick. "Did you ask her about it?" "Of course I did. She said she was fine. She said Aunt Patty's house was boring, that's all. I believed her because I wanted to believe her. Because Patty was so nice, so helpful, so perfect. How did it end? Lily started having nightmares. She would wake up screaming about white pills and secrets. I took her to a therapist, and eventually she told us everything. Patty had been giving her pills to make her calm down. She told Lily they were magic candies that would make her feel good. Magic candies. I closed my eyes. That's what she called them. Yes, Lily was young enough to believe it. She thought she was getting a treat. Rage burned in my chest. My sister had called sedatives magic candies. She had made it into a game. She had made children want the very thing that was hurting them. Did you go to the police? No, I didn't have proof. By the time Lily told us, it had been weeks since she'd taken any pills. There was nothing in her system. My husband wanted to let it go. He said it would be our word against Patty's and no one would believe us. So you did nothing? I confronted Patty. She denied everything. She said Lily was making it up for attention. She said children have wild imaginations, and I shouldn't believe every story. And then she cried. She actually cried and asked how I could accuse her of something so horrible. And you believed her. There was a long pause. When Jennifer spoke again, her voice was thick with tears. I wanted to believe her, because if she was telling the truth, then my daughter was a liar. And if my daughter was telling the truth, then I had handed her over to a monster. I chose to believe Patty because it was easier. I understood. God help me, I understood. Why are you calling me now? Because I saw the news. They arrested Patty this afternoon. They said there were multiple victims, and I realized that if I had gone to the police 4 years ago, your daughter might never have been hurt. The weight of her guilt came through the phone line. I could feel it pressing down on both of us. You can still come forward, Jennifer. You can tell the police what happened to Lily. I know. I called Detective Morrison after I saw the news. I'm giving a statement tomorrow. Thank you. Not for me, for Emma, for all the children Patty might have hurt if we don't stop her. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry I didn't do something sooner. I didn't know what to say to that. Sorry didn't change anything. Sorry didn't give those children back their stolen months. Sorry didn't erase the damage Patty had done. Let's just make sure she can never do this again, I finally said. After Jennifer hung up, I sat in the darkness of my living room, thinking about all the mothers like me. Mothers who trusted the wrong person. Mothers who ignored the warning signs. Mothers who learned the truth too late. We had all failed our children in different ways, but we could still fight for them now. The arraignment was the next morning. I wasn't planning to go, but something pulled me there. I needed to see Patty in handcuffs. I needed to see her face when she heard the charges against her. The courtroom was small and crowded. I sat in the back trying to be invisible. Greg was there too, a few rows ahead of me. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. And then they brought her in. Patty was wearing an orange jumpsuit. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was flat and limp. Her makeup was gone, and without it she looked older, tired, human. Our eyes met across the courtroom. I expected to see shame, remorse, fear. But what I saw instead made my blood run cold. She smiled at me. It was the same smile she had given me 1,000 times. The big sister smile, the I know better than you smile, the everything is under control smile. Even now, even in handcuffs, she thought she was going to win. The judge read the charges. Child endangerment, administering a controlled substance to a minor, multiple counts. Patty stood there with her lawyer, her face blank, her posture straight. How does the defendant plead? Her lawyer spoke. Not guilty, Your Honor. Not guilty. Of course, she was going to fight this. She was going to make us prove every single thing. Regarding bail, the judge continued, the prosecution has requested that the defendant be held without bail due to the severity of the charges and the number of alleged victims. Patty's lawyer objected. Your Honor, my client has no prior criminal record. She's a respected member of the community with deep ties to the area. She poses no flight risk. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the defendant is accused of systematically drugging multiple children over a period of years. The victims are all minors who were in her care. We believe she poses a significant danger to the community. The judge considered this. Bail is set at $500,000. The defendant is to have no contact with any of the alleged victims or their families. $500,000. I did the math in my head. To post bail, Patty would need to come up with $50,000 in cash or put up collateral. It was a lot of money, but not impossible for someone with her resources. As they led her out of the courtroom, Patty turned to look at me one more time. Her lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear but could read clearly. "This isn't over." I believed her. That night I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Sarah Mitchell, this is Margaret Chen. I'm a reporter with the Millbrook Gazette." My stomach dropped. No comment. "Please, Mrs. Mitchell, I'm not looking to sensationalize this. I want to tell the truth. I want people to know what happened so it doesn't happen to other children." "I don't want to talk to reporters." "I understand, but here's the thing. Someone is going to write this story. It's already news. If I don't write it, someone else will. And they might not be as careful with the facts. They might not care about protecting the victims." She had a point. The arrest was public record. The charges were public record. The story was going to come out whether I liked it or not. "What do you want to know?" "I want to know your side. I want people to understand how this happened, how a trusted family member could do something like this without anyone knowing. Because we wanted to trust her, because she was family, because we thought blood meant something." Margaret was quiet for a moment. "That's exactly what I want to write about. The betrayal of trust, the way predators hide in plain sight. Would you be willing to meet with me off the record at first, just to talk?" Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at the Blue Cup the next day. Margaret was younger than I expected, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a sympathetic manner. She listened as I told her everything. Emma's changes, the vitamins, Dr. Carter's discovery, the confrontation with Patty, Greg's revelations. "This is going to be a difficult story for people to read," Margaret said when I finished. "A lot of mothers are going to see themselves in you. They're going to wonder if they would have noticed the signs. Would they have I didn't? Don't be so hard on yourself. Your sister was a master manipulator. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew how to make people trust her." "That doesn't make me feel better." "It's not supposed to, but it might help other people understand how this happens, how good people can miss terrible things happening right in front of them." The story ran 3 days later. Margaret kept her word. She was fair, thorough, and careful with the facts. She didn't use Emma's name or the names of any of the other children. She focused on Patty, on the pattern of abuse on the system that had failed to catch her. The response was overwhelming. My phone rang constantly. Neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years called to offer support. Coworkers brought casseroles and flowers. Complete strangers sent messages through social media sharing their own stories of betrayal and abuse. But there was another kind of response too. People who defended Patty. People who said I was lying. People who said no nice woman from a good family could do something like this. "She was always so sweet," one comment read. "This has to be a misunderstanding." "That poor woman," another said, "destroyed by her jealous sister." Jealous. They thought I was jealous. Of what? Of her big house, her perfect lawn, her empty nursery. I wanted to scream at them. I wanted to show them Emma's blood work, the pills I had found in her backpack, the doctor's report. But I couldn't. The case was ongoing, and anything I said publicly could jeopardize the prosecution. So I stayed silent, and the comments kept coming. The worst day was when my mother called. I hadn't spoken to my parents since this all started. They lived in Florida, retired, deliberately removed from the drama of their children's lives. But news travels even to Florida. "Sarah, what have you done?" "Hello to you too, Mom." "I just got off the phone with Patricia. She's devastated. She says you've made up terrible lies about her. She says you're trying to destroy her life." "Mom, she drugged Emma. She gave my daughter sedatives for 3 months. That's ridiculous. Patty would never do something like that. She loves Emma." "She didn't love Emma. She wanted to control her. There's a difference." "I don't believe it. I don't believe my daughter would do something so horrible." "Which daughter, Mom?" "Because I'm your daughter too, and you're calling me a liar." There was a long silence. When my mother spoke again, her voice was cold. "Patty has always been the responsible one, the stable one. You've always had problems, Sarah. Your divorce, your money troubles, working all the time and leaving your daughter with other people. I left her with Patty because I trusted her. Maybe you're just looking for someone to blame. Maybe Emma has problems and you don't want to admit it." I couldn't breathe. My own mother was defending Patty. My own mother was calling me a liar. "Mom, the police arrested her. There are other victims. This isn't made up. I know my daughters, and I know Patty didn't do this." "Then you don't know her at all." I hung up and threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked, but I didn't care. I sat on the floor and sobbed. This was what betrayal felt like. Not just from Patty, but from my own mother. The woman who raised me, who was supposed to protect me, who was supposed to believe me. She had chosen Patty, just like she always had. Emma found me on the floor, still crying. She had been in her room supposedly doing homework, but the noise must have brought her out. "Mommy, why are you sad?" I wiped my face and tried to smile. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just having a hard day." She sat down next to me, her little body warm against mine. "Is it because of Aunt Patty?" I hesitated. How much should I tell her? How much could she understand? "Yes, baby, it's about Aunt Patty." "Is she in trouble?" "Yes, she's in trouble for giving you those vitamins." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that shattered me. "Mommy, am I in trouble too?" "What, no, baby? Why would you think that?" "Because I took the vitamins. Aunt Patty said I had to take them or I'd be bad, and bad girls get in trouble." I pulled her into my arms so tight I was afraid I might hurt her, but I couldn't let go. "Emma, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. This is not your fault. You are not bad. You have never been bad. Aunt Patty lied to you and that was wrong. But you, my sweet girl, are perfect. Do you understand?" She nodded against my chest, but I could feel her trembling. "Mommy, I was scared to tell you about the vitamins. I thought you would be mad at me." "I could never be mad at you for telling me the truth. You were so brave, Emma. So brave." "I didn't feel brave. I felt scared. That's what being brave means, sweetheart. Doing the right thing even when you're scared." We sat there on the floor for a long time holding each other, and I made a promise to myself. No matter what happened with the case, no matter what my family said, no matter how hard things got, I would never let Emma feel like she was to blame. She was the victim, she was the survivor, and I would spend the rest of my life making sure she knew that. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following week. The prosecutor, a woman named Diana Reeves, called me to prepare. "Mrs. Mitchell, I want you to know what to expect. The defense is going to try to discredit you. They're going to paint you as an absent mother, a jealous sister, someone looking to blame others for your own failures." "I know. My own mother already said as much. I'm sorry. Family situations like this are always the hardest. But I want you to know that we have a strong case. The physical evidence is solid. The blood work, the pills, the testimony of the other victims. Your sister is going to have a hard time explaining all of that away." "What about Emma? Will she have to testify?" "We're hoping to avoid that. Her statements to you, to Dr. Carter, and to her therapist can be submitted as evidence. But if the defense pushes, she may have to take the stand." The thought of Emma in a courtroom facing questions from Patty's lawyers made me sick. I don't want her to go through that. Neither do I. We'll do everything we can to protect her. The preliminary hearing came and went. The judge found sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Patty remained out on bail, confined to her home with an ankle monitor. But she wasn't silent. A week after the hearing, I came home to find a letter in my mailbox. No return address, no stamp. Someone had hand-delivered it. I opened it with shaking hands. "Dear Sarah," it read, "you think you've won, but this is just the beginning. You've destroyed my life, and for what? Because Emma had a few bad dreams, because a doctor made a mistake. You were always jealous of me, always. Even when we were children, you wanted what I had. You couldn't stand that I was better than you, smarter, prettier, more successful. So you made up lies. You turned everyone against me, but the truth will come out, And when it does, everyone will see you for what you really are, a bitter, jealous, pathetic woman who couldn't take care of her own daughter. Enjoy your victory while it lasts. It won't last long. Your loving sister, Patty. I read it twice. Then I called Detective Morrison. She's not supposed to contact you, the detective said. This violates her restraining order. What does that mean? It means we can arrest her again. Revoke her bail. Do it. That night, Patty was taken back into custody. No bail this time. She would wait for her trial in a cell. I should have felt relieved. I should have felt safe. But all I felt was exhausted. This battle had taken everything out of me, my energy, my trust, my family. But it wasn't over yet. The trial was still coming, and I knew Patty wasn't going to go down without a fight. What I didn't know was that the fight was about to get much, much worse. The weeks leading up to the trial were the longest of my life. Every day felt like walking through quicksand. I went to work. I took care of Emma. I met with the prosecutor, and I tried to hold myself together. But inside I was falling apart. Emma was making progress with Dr. Martinez. Slowly, painfully, she was starting to come back to herself. There were moments when I would catch glimpses of the old Emma, a sudden burst of laughter, a flash of mischief in her eyes, a question asked too loudly. "Mommy, why do birds fly south in the winter? Do they get tired? What if they forget the way back? Do birds have maps?" Questions, so many questions, the same questions that Patty had tried to drug out of her. I would stop whatever I was doing and answer every single one. I didn't care if it made us late. I didn't care if dinner got cold. My daughter was finding her voice again, and I would never silence her. But the progress was fragile. Some days Emma would wake up from nightmares screaming about white pills and secrets. Other days, she would slip back into that robotic state, sitting quietly with her hands folded, afraid to be too loud. "She's processing trauma," Dr. Martinez explained. "It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's normal. The important thing is that she's moving forward." I clung to those words like a lifeline. The trial was set for November 15th. The prosecutor, Diana Reeves, prepared me for what to expect. "The defense is going to be aggressive," she warned. "They're going to try to make this about you, not about what Patty did. They're going to question your parenting, your judgment, your motives." I understand. They're also going to try to discredit the other victims. They'll say the children are confused, that they're making things up, that they were coached. That's ridiculous. Emma wasn't coached. She told me the truth because she trusted me. I know that. But the defense doesn't care about the truth. They care about creating reasonable doubt. 1 juror. That's all they need. The weight of those words settled on my shoulders. 1 juror could let Patty walk free. 1 juror could decide that my daughter's suffering didn't matter. I couldn't let that happen. The night before the trial, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario in my head. What if the jury didn't believe us? What if Patty's lawyers were too good? What if she got away with everything? Around midnight, I heard a soft knock on my bedroom door. "Mommy." Emma was standing in the doorway clutching her stuffed rabbit. "What's wrong, sweetheart? Did you have a bad dream?" She shook her head. "I can't sleep. Can I stay with you?" I pulled back the covers, and she climbed in, snuggling against me like she used to when she was a baby. For a long moment, we just lay there in the darkness. "Mommy, is tomorrow the day when they decide about Aunt Patty?" "Yes, baby. Tomorrow is when the trial starts." "Will I have to see her?" I hesitated. The prosecutor had done everything possible to keep Emma off the witness stand, but there were no guarantees. "I don't know, but if you do have to see her, I'll be right there with you. I won't leave your side." "I'm scared." "I know, sweetheart. I'm scared too." "You are?" "Yes, but being scared doesn't mean we're weak. It means we're brave. Remember what I told you. Brave is doing the right thing, even when you're scared." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I want to be brave, Mommy. I want to tell everyone what Aunt Patty did, so she can't do it to other kids." My heart swelled with pride and broke with grief at the same time. My 8-year-old daughter was braver than I had ever been. You're already brave, Emma. You're the bravest person I know. She fell asleep in my arms, and I held her until morning. The courthouse was crowded when we arrived. Reporters lined the steps, cameras flashing microphones thrust forward. I kept my head down and my arm around Emma as we pushed through the crowd. Inside the courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wooden benches, fluorescent lights, and American flag behind the judge's chair. It looked ordinary, almost boring. Not at all like the place where my sister's fate would be decided. I took a seat in the front row behind the prosecutor's table. Emma was with Linda safely away from the courthouse. I had promised to call her as soon as each day's proceedings were over. The other families were there too. Jennifer Walsh, whose daughter Lily had been one of Patty's first victims. Michael and Susan Bradley, whose son Tyler had been drugged the summer he stayed with Patty and Greg. We had met several times over the past weeks, comparing stories, finding comfort in our shared pain. When the bailiff announced the judge's entrance, everyone stood. Judge Patricia Kowalski took her seat and surveyed the courtroom with stern eyes. This court is now in session. The people versus Patricia Ann Henderson. And then the side door opened and Patty walked in. She looked different. Gone was the disheveled woman from the arraignment. Her hair was styled, her makeup flawless, her clothes expensive and conservative. She looked like what she wanted the jury to see, a respectable woman, a pillar of the community, a victim of false accusations. Our eyes met across the courtroom. This time she didn't smile. Her face was blank, unreadable, like a mask. The prosecutor's opening statement was powerful. Diana Reeves walked the jury through the evidence, the pills, the blood work, the testimony of 3 separate children, the pattern of behavior spanning years. This is not a case of misunderstanding, she said. This is not a case of a well-meaning aunt making mistakes. This is a case of systematic abuse. Patricia Henderson drugged children to control them. She sedated them so they would be quiet and compliant. She broke their spirits so she could mold them into the perfect, obedient dolls she always wanted. She paused, letting the words sink in. Emma Mitchell was 8 years old when her aunt started giving her benzodiazepines. 8 years old. She was told the pills were vitamins. She was told to keep it a secret. She was told that if she didn't take them, she would be bad. And for 3 months she believed it. 3 months of being drugged, 3 months of losing weight, losing energy, losing herself. 3 months of being silenced. I could feel the jury's eyes on me. Some of them looked sympathetic. Others looked skeptical. I couldn't tell which was worse. By the end of this trial, Diana concluded, you will see Patricia Henderson for what she really is. Not a loving aunt, not a helpful sister, but a predator who targeted the most vulnerable victims of all. Children who trusted her. The defense attorney, a slick man named Harrison Burke, took a different approach. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what you've just heard is a compelling story. But that's all it is, a story. A narrative constructed by a sister who has always been jealous of my client. A story supported by confused children who were coached to say what their parents wanted them to say. I gripped the bench so hard, my knuckles turned white. Patricia Henderson is not a monster. She's a woman who desperately wanted children of her own, but was unable to have them. She opened her home to her niece out of love, not malice. She cared for 3 children whose own parents were too busy or too absent to care for them themselves. He paced in front of the jury, his voice smooth and confident. The prosecution wants you to believe that my client systematically drugged children for years. But where is the proof? A few pills that could have come from anywhere. Blood work that shows trace amounts of a common medication. And the testimony of children all under the age of 10 who have been coached by their parents to tell a specific story. He shook his head as if the whole thing was absurd. The truth is, Patricia Henderson is a scapegoat. She's being blamed for problems that existed long before she entered these children's lives. Emma Mitchell's mother was working 60 hours a week. Tyler Bradley's parents were going through a divorce. Lily Walsh was already showing signs of anxiety before she ever met my client. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and call him a liar, but I couldn't. I had to sit there and listen while he painted my sister as a victim and me as the villain. By the end of this trial, Burke concluded, you will see that there is reasonable doubt. plenty of it, and where there is reasonable doubt, there can be no conviction. The first witness was Dr. Raymond Carter. He walked the jury through his discovery of the benzodiazepines in Emma's system, explaining in clear terms what the drug was and what it could do to a child. Benzodiazepines are central nervous system depressants, he explained. They're used to treat anxiety and insomnia in adults, but in children, especially over extended periods, they can cause serious harm: memory problems, cognitive delays, dependency, withdrawal symptoms. "And you found this drug in Emma Mitchell's blood work?" Diana asked. "Yes, the levels were consistent with regular use over a period of several months." "In your medical opinion, could this drug have been administered accidentally?" "No, benzodiazepines require a prescription. They're not something you find in children's vitamins. Someone had to deliberately give these pills to Emma." The defense's cross-examination was brutal. "Dr. Carter, isn't it true that blood tests can be contaminated?" "It's possible, but unlikely in this case. The lab followed standard protocols." "But it's possible." "In theory, yes. And isn't it also true that children sometimes get into medication that belongs to adults? Could Emma have taken these pills herself without anyone giving them to her?" "That seems extremely unlikely. The levels in her blood suggest regular controlled doses over months. A child getting into medication accidentally would show different patterns. But you can't rule it out completely." Dr. Carter hesitated. "I can't rule out anything completely, but based on the evidence, my professional opinion is that these pills were deliberately administered to Emma over an extended period." It was a small victory, but Burke had planted the seed of doubt. The next witness was Greg Henderson. He walked to the stand looking like a man who had aged 10 years and 10 weeks. His testimony was damning. "Mr. Henderson, did you know your wife was giving pills to Emma Mitchell?" "Not at first, but after a few weeks, I noticed Emma was different. Quieter, more subdued. I asked Patty about it, and she said she was giving Emma something to help her calm down." "Did she tell you what it was?" "She said it was just a mild sedative. She said Emma was too hyper and it was exhausting taking care of her. She said a little something to take the edge off wouldn't hurt." "And what did you do when you found out?" Greg looked down at his hands. "Nothing. I did nothing. I told myself it wasn't my business. I told myself Patty knew what she was doing." "Why didn't you report it?" "Because I was afraid of her. Because I knew what she was capable of. Because I'm a coward." The last sentence hung in the air like a confession. "Mr. Henderson, was Emma the first child your wife drugged?" "No, there were others, before Emma." "Can you name them?" "Lily Walsh, Tyler Bradley, and there may have been more that I don't know about." Burke's cross-examination tried to paint Greg as an unreliable witness, a bitter husband seeking revenge in a divorce. But Greg held firm. "I'm not here for revenge, Mr. Burke. I'm here because I should have spoken up years ago and I didn't. I'm here because those children deserved better. They deserved someone to protect them, and I failed." Day 2 brought the testimony of the other families. Jennifer Walsh took the stand first, her voice trembling but determined. Lily was 7 when Patty started watching her. She was a normal, happy child. Within weeks, she changed. She became withdrawn, quiet, like a different person. "Did Lily tell you what was happening?" "Eventually. She had nightmares about white pills. She called them magic candies. She said Aunt Patty gave them to her to make her feel good." "Did you confront Patricia Henderson?" "Yes. She denied everything. She said Lily was making it up. She cried and asked how I could believe such terrible things about her." "And what did you do?" Jennifer's voice cracked. "I believed her. I believed Patty instead of my own daughter, and I will never forgive myself for that." Tyler Bradley's mother Susan told a similar story. Tyler had stayed with Patty and Greg for a summer while his parents dealt with their divorce. He came home a different child. He used to be so active, always running, always playing. After that summer, he just wanted to sit in his room. He gained weight because he wasn't moving. He started having trouble in school. "Did Tyler ever tell you about the pills?" "Not until years later. He said he didn't remember most of that summer. It was all fuzzy like a dream, but he remembered the pills. He remembered Aunt Patty telling him they were special treats." By the time the other families finished their testimony, the pattern was undeniable. 3 children, 3 sets of parents, 3 stories that matched perfectly. But Burke wasn't giving up. Mrs. Walsh, isn't it true that you were having financial difficulties when you asked Patricia Henderson to watch Lily? I don't see what that has to do with anything. Please answer the question. Yes, we were struggling. My husband had lost his job. So you were looking for free childcare. And when problems arose with Lily, you needed someone to blame. That's not true. I blamed myself. For years I blamed myself. But now you're blaming my client. How convenient. The questions continued, each one designed to chip away at the witness's credibility. By the end of the day, I was exhausted and demoralized. Don't worry, Diana told me. Burke is doing what defense attorneys do, but the evidence is on our side. Day 3 was my turn. I walked to the witness stand on legs that felt like jelly. I could feel Patty's eyes on me watching, waiting. I refused to look at her. Mrs. Mitchell, please tell the jury about your relationship with your sister. I took a deep breath. Patty is 7 years older than me. We were never close growing up. After I had Emma and went through my divorce, Patty offered to help with childcare. I was grateful. I trusted her. When did you first notice something was wrong with Emma? About 2 months into the arrangement. Emma started changing. She became quiet, withdrawn. She lost weight. She stopped wanting to play. Did you confront your sister? Not at first. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself Emma was adjusting to the new routine. I wanted to believe everything was fine. What changed? Emma told me about the vitamins. She asked if she could stop taking them because they made her feel sleepy and weird. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. What did you do? I found the pills in her backpack. I took her to Dr. Carter. When the test results came back, he told me Emma had benzodiazepines in her system. He said whoever was giving her those pills was committing child abuse. The words echoed in the silent courtroom. What was your reaction? I was devastated, horrified. My own sister had been drugging my daughter for months, and I hadn't known. I had trusted her. I had thanked her. I had thought she was helping us. Mrs. Mitchell, did you confront Patricia Henderson? Yes, I went to her house and told her I knew about the pills. She denied it at first. Then she admitted it, but she said she was helping. She said Emma was too hyper, too difficult, and the pills made her manageable. She said I should be thanking her. Burke's cross-examination was everything Diana had warned me about. Mrs. Mitchell, isn't it true that you were jealous of your sister? No. Really? Your sister has a beautiful home, a successful husband, financial security. While you struggled as a single mother working double shifts just to make ends meet, that didn't make you jealous. No, it made me grateful that she was willing to help me. But you resented her, didn't you? Resented that she had the life you wanted. Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. Move on, Mr. Burke. But the damage was done. I could see some of the jurors looking at me differently now. Mrs. Mitchell, isn't it true that you were an absent mother, that you worked so many hours that you barely saw your daughter? I worked hard to provide for Emma. That doesn't make me an absent mother. But you left her care to others. First Mrs. Patterson, then your sister. Isn't it possible that the problems Emma experienced were due to neglect, not abuse? No, Emma was fine before she started going to Patty's house. The changes started after Patty began giving her pills. But you didn't notice those changes for months. Some would say that's neglect. I noticed. I just didn't want to believe what I was seeing. So you ignored the warning signs, and now you're blaming your sister for your own failures. That's not true. I blame myself. I still blame myself. But that doesn't change what Patty did. Burke paused, letting the silence stretch. Mrs. Mitchell, do you love your sister? The question caught me off guard. I don't know how to answer that. It's a simple question. Do you love your sister? I looked at Patty for the first time since taking the stand. She was watching me with those cold, calculating eyes. The sister I thought I knew was gone. Maybe she had never existed. I loved the person I thought she was. But that person wasn't real. The real Patty is someone who drugs children because she can't control them. The real Patty is someone who lies without remorse. The real Patty is someone who hurt my daughter and feels no guilt. So you hate her. I don't hate her. I pity her, and I want to make sure she never hurts another child again. The closing arguments came on day 5. Diana went first. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past few days you've heard from doctors, from families, from the victims themselves. You've seen the evidence. Pills, blood work, a pattern of behavior spanning years, 3 children drugged by the same woman showing the same symptoms, telling the same stories. This is not coincidence. This is not imagination. This is the truth. She walked slowly in front of the jury box. Patricia Henderson wanted perfect children. Children who would sit quietly, ask no questions, make no noise. When the real children in her care failed to meet her expectations, she found a way to fix them. She drugged them into compliance. She silenced them. She broke them. Her voice dropped. Emma Mitchell is 8 years old. For 3 months she was given sedatives without her mother's knowledge. She was told the pills were vitamins. She was told to keep it a secret. She was told she was bad if she didn't take them. She lost weight. She lost energy. She lost her spark. Her childhood was stolen 1 pill at a time. Diana turned to face the jury directly. This is not about a jealous sister. This is not about absent parenting. This is about a woman who systematically abused children because she couldn't control them any other way. Patricia Henderson is guilty. The evidence proves it, and those children deserve justice. Burke's closing argument was polished and persuasive. Reasonable doubt, he said. That's all I'm asking you to consider. Not certainty, not probability, doubt. Because if there is any doubt in your minds, any doubt at all, that my client did what she's accused of, then you cannot convict. He listed the doubts. The possibility of contaminated tests, the reliability of children's testimony, the bias of a jealous sister, the absence of direct proof. Patricia Henderson is a woman who opened her home to children whose own parents couldn't care for them. She's a woman who struggled with infertility and found meaning in helping others. She's not a monster. She's not a predator. She's a scapegoat for parents who couldn't face their own failures. He shook his head sadly. Don't let them use my client to ease their guilt. Don't punish her for their mistakes. If you have any doubt at all, you must find her not guilty. The jury deliberated for 2 days. 2 days of waiting, of pacing, of jumping every time my phone rang. 2 days of barely eating, barely sleeping, barely holding on. When the bailiff finally called us back into the courtroom, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The jury filed in. 12 faces impossible to read. I searched for any sign of what they had decided, but found nothing. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman stood. We have your honor. On the charge of child endangerment in the 1st degree, how do you find guilty? I couldn't breathe. On the charge of administering a controlled substance to a minor, how do you find guilty? On the charges of reckless endangerment of a child, counts 1 through 3, how do you find guilty on all counts? The courtroom erupted. I heard Jennifer Walsh sobbing. I heard Susan Bradley thanking God. I heard my own voice somewhere far away saying Emma's name over and over again. Guilty, on all counts. Patty was going to prison. I looked at my sister. The mask had finally cracked. Her face was pale, her hands trembling, her eyes wild with disbelief. She looked at me across the courtroom, and for the first time I saw fear. This isn't over, she mouthed. But she was wrong. It was over. She was guilty, and my daughter was finally safe. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks after the verdict. 3 weeks of waiting, of wondering what justice would actually look like. 3 weeks of Patty sitting in a jail cell, finally facing consequences for what she had done. I spent those weeks focused on Emma. She was improving every day, slowly but steadily. Dr. Martinez said she was one of the most resilient children she had ever worked with. Emma has something that many trauma survivors lack, she told me during one of our sessions. She has a mother who believes her, a mother who fought for her. You have no idea how much that matters. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that I had done something right. But the guilt still haunted me. Every time Emma had a nightmare, every time she flinched at a loud noise, every time she asked permission to speak or play, I was reminded of what I had failed to see. "Mommy, can I ask you something?" We were sitting at the kitchen table eating breakfast. Emma had her favorite cereal, the one with the little marshmallows that Patty had said were bad for her. I let her eat as much as she wanted now. "Of course, sweetheart. You can ask me anything." "Is Aunt Patty going to jail forever?" I set down my coffee. "I don't know yet. The judge is going to decide how long she has to stay in jail. That's what the hearing next week is about." "Will I have to see her again?" "No, you never have to see her again if you don't want to." Emma nodded, stirring her cereal thoughtfully. "Good. I don't want to see her. She scared me." "I know, baby. She scared me too." "Mommy, why did Aunt Patty want me to be quiet? Why didn't she like me the way I was?" The question broke my heart. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that some people are broken in ways that can't be fixed, that some people hurt others because they can't deal with their own pain? "I don't think it was about you, Emma. I think Aunt Patty had problems inside herself, problems that made her do bad things. It wasn't because of anything you did. You were perfect. You are perfect. Then why did she want to change me?" I pulled her into my lap, something I hadn't done in months, because she had grown so much. She was still small enough to fit, still young enough to want to be held. Some people don't understand that being loud and curious and full of energy is beautiful. They see it as a problem because they can't control it. Aunt Patty wanted to control everything. And when she couldn't control you, she tried to change you. "That's mean." "Yes, sweetheart. It was very mean." "I'm glad you stopped her, Mommy." "Me too, baby. Me too." The sentencing hearing arrived on a cold December morning. I left Emma with Linda again, not wanting her anywhere near the courthouse. This was something I needed to do alone. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, families, curious observers. Margaret Chen from the Gazette was there, notebook in hand. Jennifer Walsh and Susan Bradley sat behind me, a united front of mothers who had trusted the wrong person. When they brought Patty in, I barely recognized her. She had lost weight in jail. Her hair was limp, her face gaunt, her eyes hollow. The glamorous mask was completely gone now, and what remained was a shell of the woman I once called sister. Judge Kowalski called the hearing to order and asked if either side had statements to make before sentencing. Diana Reeves stood. "Your Honor, the prosecution would like to present victim impact statements from the families." Jennifer Walsh went first. Her voice shook as she read from a piece of paper. "Your Honor, my daughter Lily is 11 years old now. 4 years ago, she was a happy, healthy 7-year-old. After spending time in Patricia Henderson's care, she became a different child. She had nightmares. She was afraid to be alone. She didn't trust adults. It took years of therapy for her to understand what had happened to her. Even now, she struggles with anxiety. She has trouble sleeping. She asks me why the lady who was supposed to take care of her hurt her instead." Jennifer's voice cracked. "I don't have an answer for her. I don't know why Patricia Henderson did what she did, but I know the damage she caused. My daughter's childhood was stolen. Her sense of safety was destroyed, and no amount of punishment will ever give that back to her." Susan Bradley went next. "Tyler is 12 now. He barely remembers the summer he spent with Patricia Henderson. He says it's all fuzzy, like a dream he can't quite recall. But the effects are real. He struggles in school. He has attention problems. He has trust issues. He's been in therapy since he was 8 years old." She looked directly at Patty. "You took something from my son that he can never get back. You took his trust, his safety, his childhood, and you did it because he was too energetic for you, because he was a normal, healthy child who didn't fit into your perfect little box." Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium on unsteady legs. I had written and rewritten my statement a dozen times, but now standing there, the words on the paper seemed inadequate. I looked at Patty, my sister, the woman I had trusted with the most precious thing in my life. "Your Honor, 6 months ago, my daughter Emma came to me and asked if she could stop taking Aunt Patty's vitamins. Those 5 words changed everything. They revealed a truth I should have seen months earlier, a truth I was too blind, too tired, too trusting to recognize. I paused, steadying myself. Emma was 8 years old when Patricia Henderson started drugging her. 8 years old. She was in second grade. She liked to dance and sing and ask a million questions. She had more energy than I knew what to do with. She was loud and messy and wonderful. My voice broke, but I pushed through. After 3 months in Patricia's care, Emma was a different child. She was quiet, obedient, robotic. She had lost weight. She had dark circles under her eyes. She flinched when she laughed too loud, afraid someone would tell her to be quiet. She stopped asking questions because she had been told that asking too many questions was annoying. I had to stop and take a breath. The courtroom was silent. Patricia Henderson didn't just drug my daughter. She tried to erase her. She tried to turn my vibrant, curious, beautiful child into a silent, compliant doll, and she almost succeeded. I looked at Patty again. She was staring at the table in front of her, refusing to meet my eyes. I trusted you, Patty. You were my sister. I thought blood meant something. I thought family meant something. I handed you my daughter because I believed you would love her and protect her the way I did. My voice hardened. But you didn't love Emma. You loved the idea of her. You loved having a child to control, to mold, to shape into whatever you wanted. And when Emma didn't fit your mold, you broke her, you drugged her, you silenced her. I turned to face the judge. Your Honor, I'm not here to ask for vengeance. I'm here to ask for justice. Not just for Emma, but for Lily and Tyler and any other child Patricia might have hurt. I'm asking you to send a message that children are not toys to be controlled. They are not problems to be medicated. They are human beings who deserve to be loved exactly as they are. I folded my statement and put it in my pocket. My daughter is recovering, slowly, painfully. She still has nightmares. She still asks permission to be loud. She still wonders if there's something wrong with her. But she's getting better. Because she has a mother who believes her. Because she has people who love her. Because she had the courage to speak up. I looked at Patty one last time. I hope you find help, Patricia. I hope you get the treatment you need. But I also hope you never have access to another child again. Because what you did was evil. And evil has consequences. I sat down. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold them still. The defense had a chance to make a statement. Harrison Burke stood and spoke about Patty's mental health issues, her struggle with infertility, her genuine desire to help children. He asked for leniency for a reduced sentence for mercy. Then Judge Kowalski asked if Patty wanted to address the court. Patty stood slowly. For a long moment, she just stood there silent. Then she spoke. I never meant to hurt anyone. Her voice was flat, emotionless. I couldn't tell if she was sincere or just going through the motions. I wanted children so badly. My whole life, all I wanted was to be a mother. When that didn't happen, something broke inside me. I thought I was helping. I thought I was making things better. I didn't realize I was causing harm. She paused. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did to Emma and Lily and Tyler. I'm sorry for the pain I caused their families. I never wanted to be this person. She sat down without looking at anyone. I wanted to believe her. Part of me desperately wanted to believe that my sister was truly sorry, that she understood the magnitude of what she had done. But I couldn't. Her apology felt hollow, rehearsed, like lines in a play. Judge Kowalski was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. Patricia Ann Henderson, you have been found guilty of child endangerment, administering controlled substances to minors, and reckless endangerment of children. These are serious crimes, crimes that have caused lasting harm to 3 children and their families. She looked at Patty with cold eyes. You were entrusted with the care of vulnerable children, and you betrayed that trust in the most fundamental way possible. You drugged them to control them. You silenced them to suit your own needs. You treated them as objects to be managed, rather than human beings to be nurtured. Her voice hardened. The court has considered the defense's arguments regarding your mental health and personal struggles. While I acknowledge that you have faced challenges in your life, those challenges do not excuse what you did. Many people struggle with infertility. Many people have mental health issues. They do not drug children. Judge Kowalski folded her hands. It is the judgment of this court that Patricia Henderson be sentenced to 15 years in state prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years. Additionally, upon release, you will be registered as a child abuser and will be prohibited from any employment or volunteer work that involves contact with minors. 15 years, possibly 10 with parole. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. I heard Jennifer Walsh crying softly behind me. I heard Susan Bradley whispering, "Thank God," over and over. I felt nothing, just a vast, empty numbness. As they led Patty away, she turned to look at me. Our eyes met for the last time. "I hope you're happy," she said. "You've destroyed everything." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Outside the courthouse, the reporters swarmed. I pushed through them without speaking, desperate to get to my car, desperate to get home to Emma. Margaret Chen caught up with me. "Mrs. Mitchell, how do you feel about the sentence?" "I feel like my daughter can finally start healing. That's all that matters." "Do you have anything to say to other parents who might be in similar situations?" I stopped and turned to face her. "Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Listen to your children. Really listen. And never assume that someone is safe just because they're family. The people who hurt us are often the ones we trust most." I drove home in a daze. When I walked through the door, Linda was sitting on the couch with Emma reading a book. Emma looked up when she saw me. "Mommy, you're home?" She jumped up and ran to me, throwing her arms around my waist. I held her tight, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling her heart beat against mine. "Is it over?" Linda asked quietly. "It's over. She got 15 years. Linda nodded. She didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. That night I sat with Emma in her room, tucking her into bed the way I had done 1,000 times before. But this time felt different. This time felt like a new beginning. "Mommy, is Aunt Patty going to be in jail for a long time?" "Yes, sweetheart, a very long time." "Good." She said it simply without malice. Just a statement of fact. "Emma, I want you to know something. What happened with Aunt Patty, what she did to you that wasn't your fault. Not even a little bit. You didn't do anything wrong." "I know, Mommy. Dr. Martinez tells me that every week." I smiled. "Well, Dr. Martinez is a smart lady. Mommy, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Are you still sad?" I thought about it. Was I sad? I was tired. I was relieved. I was angry and grateful and heartbroken and hopeful all at once. But sad. "Sometimes I'm sad," I admitted. "I'm sad that Aunt Patty hurt you. I'm sad that I didn't see it sooner. I'm sad that our family is broken." "Is Grandma still mad at you?" I hadn't spoken to my mother since that phone call months ago. She hadn't reached out. Neither had I. "Grandma and I have some things to work out, but that's not your problem, okay? That's between me and her." "I miss Grandma." I closed my eyes. Of course Emma missed her grandmother. My mother had been a part of her life since birth. Just because she had chosen Patty over me didn't mean Emma had to lose her too. "Maybe someday things will be different," I said. "But for now, let's focus on us. You and me. We're a team, right?" Emma smiled, a real smile, bright and full. "The best team." "That's right. Now get some sleep. You have school tomorrow." I kissed her forehead and turned off the light. At the door I paused. "Emma." "Yeah, Mommy. I love you. Exactly the way you are. Never forget that." "I love you too, Mommy. Exactly the way you are." I closed the door and leaned against the wall, tears streaming down my face. But for the first time in months, they weren't tears of grief. They were tears of relief, of hope, of love. The months that followed were a journey of healing. For Emma, for me, for all of us. Emma continued her therapy with Dr. Martinez. Week by week, she grew stronger. The nightmares became less frequent. The flinching stopped. The questions came back louder and more curious than ever. "Mommy, why is the sky blue? How do planes stay up? What do dogs dream about? Can fish feel happy?" I answered every question. Even when I didn't know the answer, we would look it up together. Her curiosity was a gift, and I treasured every moment of it. I changed my work schedule. I talked to my supervisor and explained the situation. She was more understanding than I expected. She helped me find a schedule that allowed me to be home when Emma got out of school. It meant less money, but it was worth it. We developed new routines. Every afternoon we would do homework together at the kitchen table. Then we would cook dinner, making as much mess as we wanted. On weekends we would go to the park, and Emma would run and scream and be as loud as she pleased. "Mommy, watch me, watch me!" She would spin until she was dizzy, then collapse on the grass, laughing hysterically. I would watch and clap and cheer, grateful for every decibel of her joy. One evening, about 3 months after the trial, I got a call from an unexpected number. My mother. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sarah. Her voice sounded old, tired, broken. "Mom, I watched the trial on the news. I saw everything." I didn't say anything. I waited. "I was wrong, Sarah. I was so wrong. I didn't want to believe that Patty could do something like that. She was always my perfect daughter, my success story. I couldn't accept that she was capable of hurting a child. But she was, and she did." I know that now." My mother's voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I chose Patty over you. I was a terrible mother." I had waited months to hear those words. I had imagined this conversation 100 times. But now that it was happening, I didn't know what to feel. "Mom, you hurt me. You called me a liar. You defended the woman who drugged your granddaughter." "I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me, but I had to say it. I had to tell you that I was wrong." "Why now? Why not months ago?" There was a long pause. "Because I was ashamed. Because I couldn't face what I had done. Because it was easier to stay silent than to admit I had failed both of my daughters." "Both of your daughters?" "Patty is my daughter too, Sarah, even after everything she's done. And I failed her. I never got her the help she needed. I ignored the signs that something was wrong. I let her become this person." I had never thought about it that way. About Patty as a victim too. A victim of her own broken mind, her own unaddressed issues, her own parents who didn't know how to help her. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Mom. Not yet." "I understand. But Emma misses you. She asks about you." I heard my mother catch her breath. "She does." "Yes, and I won't keep her from you. If you want to see her, you can. But there will be rules, and if you ever defend what Patty did, if you ever make Emma feel like any of this was her fault, we're done. Permanently." "I would never. I swear to you, Sarah. I see things clearly now." We agreed to start slowly. A phone call with Emma first. Then maybe a video chat. Eventually, if things went well, a visit. When I told Emma that Grandma wanted to talk to her, her face lit up. "Really?" Grandma called. "She did. She wants to say sorry for being gone so long. Do you want to talk to her?" Emma nodded eagerly. "Yes, I want to tell her about my new teacher and my friend Madison and the book I'm reading." I dialed my mother's number and handed Emma the phone. Watching them reconnect, hearing Emma's excited chatter and my mother's tearful responses, I felt something shift inside me. Healing wasn't just about punishing the people who hurt us. It was about rebuilding the connections that mattered, finding new ways to be a family, even when the old ways were broken. 6 months after the trial, I got a letter from Greg. He had filed for divorce from Patty and was living in a small apartment on the other side of town. He wanted to apologize. Again. I met him at the Blue Cup, the same coffee shop where he had first told me the truth about Patty. "I'm selling the house," he said. "I can't live there anymore. Too many memories." "What are you going to do?" "Start over, somewhere far from here. I've applied for jobs in Colorado. Always wanted to live in the mountains." I nodded. "That sounds like a good plan." "Sarah, I want you to know something. Testifying against Patty was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was also the right thing. For the first time in years, I feel like I can look at myself in the mirror. You helped put her away, Greg. That took courage. It took desperation. I was so tired of being afraid, tired of knowing I was complicit. When you confronted Patty, when you refused to back down, you gave me courage too. I didn't know what to say to that. I hadn't felt courageous. I had felt terrified, furious, devastated. But maybe that's what courage was, doing the right thing even when you were falling apart inside. "How's Emma?" Greg asked. "Better. Getting better every day." "I'm glad. She's a good kid. She deserved better than what we gave her." "She did. But she's going to be okay. I'll make sure of it." Greg finished his coffee and stood to leave. At the door he turned back. "Sarah, thank you for being the kind of mother who listens, the kind who fights. The world needs more mothers like you." I watched him walk away, and I thought about all the parents out there who were fighting the same battles, parents who were trying to protect their children from the people they trusted, parents who were learning too late that love alone wasn't enough. You had to pay attention too. You had to listen. You had to believe your children, even when the truth was unbearable. 1 year after the verdict, Emma turned 9. We threw a party in the backyard. Her friends from school came along with Linda and her kids. My mother made the trip from Florida. Even Jennifer Walsh and Susan Bradley stopped by with their children. It was loud. It was chaotic. There were spilled drinks and cake on the grass and children screaming at the top of their lungs. It was perfect. I stood on the back porch watching Emma run around with her friends, her laughter echoing through the yard. A year ago, I had wondered if I would ever hear that laugh again. Now it filled every corner of our lives. My mother came to stand beside me. "She's doing well," she said. "She is. You've done an amazing job, Sarah. I know I don't say it enough, but I'm proud of you." I looked at my mother. She looked older than I remembered, grayer, smaller. The past year had taken its toll on all of us. "Thank you, Mom." I still think about Patty. Every day. I wonder where I went wrong, what I could have done differently. I think about that too, about both of you, about our whole family. Do you hate her? I thought about it. Did I hate Patty? For months, I had been consumed by rage. Every time I looked at Emma, every time I saw the lingering effects of what Patty had done, I had wanted to scream. But somewhere along the way, the rage had faded. Not disappeared, just faded, replaced by something else. "I don't hate her," I said slowly. "I don't forgive her either. I don't think I ever will. But I've stopped letting her take up space in my head. She doesn't deserve that space. Emma does." My mother nodded. "That's wise. It's survival. I can't move forward if I'm always looking back." Emma ran up to us, breathless and grinning. "Mommy, Grandma, come play with us. We need more people for Capture the Flag." I looked at my mother. She was smiling, her eyes wet with tears. "What do you say, Grandma? Think you can keep up?" My mother laughed. "I'll try my best." We joined the game, running around the yard like children, getting grass stains on our clothes and not caring one bit. Emma was the fastest, dodging and weaving, impossible to catch. At one point she stopped and looked at me, her face flushed with joy. "Mommy, this is the best birthday ever." "I'm glad, sweetheart." "Mommy, yes. Thank you for listening to me, about the vitamins, about everything." I knelt down so I was at her level. "I will always listen to you, Emma. Always. No matter what." She threw her arms around me and squeezed tight. "I know. That's why you're the best mommy in the whole world." I held her close, feeling her heart beat against mine, breathing in the smell of grass and cake and childhood. Later that night, after the party was over and Emma was asleep, I sat alone in the living room, thinking about everything that had happened over the past year. The discovery, the confrontation, the trial, the healing. I thought about the other families too. Jennifer and Lily, Susan and Tyler. We had formed a bond, the four of us mothers who had trusted the wrong person. We still talked regularly, checking in on each other, sharing victories and setbacks. Lily was doing well. She had started middle school and was making friends. Tyler was catching up in school, his grades improving with each semester. The healing was happening for all of us, slowly but surely. I thought about the message I wanted other parents to hear, the lesson that had been burned into my soul. Trust your instincts. Listen to your children. Pay attention to the changes, even the small ones. And never ever assume that someone is safe just because they're family. The most dangerous people aren't strangers. They're the ones who have already earned your trust. The ones you would never suspect. The ones who smile and offer help and seem like the answer to all your problems. I had learned that lesson the hardest way possible. My daughter had paid the price for my blindness. But we had survived. We had fought back. And we had won. Not just in the courtroom, but in the everyday moments of our lives. In Emma's laughter and curiosity and boundless energy, in her willingness to trust again, to love again, to be herself again. That was the real victory. Not Patty's conviction, not the 15-year sentence, but my daughter whole and happy and free. I looked at the photo on the mantel, Emma's school picture from this year. She was grinning at the camera, her eyes bright, her spirit unbroken. My sister had wanted a quiet child, a perfect child, a child who sat still and asked no questions and made no noise. But my daughter was never meant to be quiet. She was meant to be heard. She was meant to laugh and dance and sing at the top of her lungs. She was meant to ask a million questions and make a million messes and fill every room with her irrepressible joy. And I would never let anyone silence her again. I stood up and walked to Emma's room. I opened the door quietly and watched her sleep. Her chest rose and fell in a peaceful rhythm. Her stuffed rabbit was tucked under her arm. "I love you, Emma," I whispered. "Exactly the way you are." She stirred slightly but didn't wake. A small smile crossed her face, as if she could hear me in her dreams. I closed the door and went to bed, grateful for another day with my daughter. Another day of healing, another day of hope. Tomorrow, Emma would wake up with a dozen questions about the universe. Tomorrow she would run and jump and make noise and be gloriously unapologetically herself. And I would be there listening to every word, cherishing every moment, protecting her with everything I had. Because that's what mothers do. We listen, we fight, we believe, and we never ever give up.